Hello everyone, and this is BioPhoenix here. So for the next horror-related game, we're going to be taking a look at something very different, being a PC-98 game, which I've only have done one before. And this one is known as Rusty. So it was developed and published by C-Lab and was released in 1993, and only in Japan of course. So the first PC-98 game I ever reviewed was Tatsugeki Mix, and that one was also developed by C-Lab. But what can I say, they tend to make games that happen to be easy to understand. Because just like Tatsugeki Mix, this one is also a action platformer, but happens to look very familiar. And just by looking at this, I don't think I need to explain what this game is inspired by, it's pretty obvious. So yeah, let's get moving on to the story. So the main character that you play as is named Rusty, and she is a vampire hunter. And she's traveling through a small town, but she happens to see two kids, and they ask her about their missing sisters, which were kidnapped by a bunch of monsters. And by the way, apparently the monsters are summoned by someone else who uses human sacrifices, so we can't have that happening. So yeah, that's basically what you need to know. And for those of you that are wondering, this game does have a fan translation, but for some reason, whenever I tried patching this game, it never fucking worked. But because this game is such easy to understand, even without like knowing Japanese, I just said fuck it, I'm playing it raw. So now, when it comes to the gameplay, like I said, this is an action platformer where you use a whip and you kill monsters, and you gotta get from one end of the screen to the next, and you gotta fight a boss at the end. And when you beat a boss, you happen to save one of the many sisters, and they reward you with a picture that looks very, yeah, totally kid appropriate. Well, it's pretty tame, but still, you see a lot of like huge knockers and thigh shots. But within the levels, of course, you do get certain power-ups, and they all do very different things. But one of the power-ups that did get my interest was that one of them is actually an owl that will actually attack things for you. I don't know if anyone remembers the NES game called 8 Eyes, that it was also very similar to this other game that starts with a C, and it had an eagle companion. So that's what that reminded me of. And of course there are many secrets you get to find, because even though this game is pretty linear for the most part, it does have many other places that you can visit where you can get other power-ups or many other different key items to access different areas. So I really do like that, because I do find that the level design in this game is actually really good. And as you would expect, you use a whip to kill enemies, but you can also use it to swing across certain areas that are hard to reach. So that sums up what you need to know about the gameplay. It sounds very much like a Belmont kind of game. So now, let's take a look at the game's controls, and all I gotta say is that the controls in this game are really weird. But the good thing about them is that they are definitely a lot better than Tatsugeki Mix's controls. But they do take a lot of time to get used to though. So it should be obvious that the PC-98 uses a keyboard, and of course you'd think like playing a game like this on a keyboard would be a real pain in the ass, but believe it or not, I actually find using a keyboard for this game actually felt a lot better. And one of the main reasons why I feel that playing this game with a keyboard is better than with a controller is that in order to run in this game, and yes, there are parts in this game where you're gonna have to use the run option, you gotta press the two keys that go diagonal, whether it be up right or up left. And while it is kinda awkward at first, but you do get used to it though. But however, the problem with this with using a controller is that no matter how many times I fucked with like the configuration of the controller, you can't go diagonal with it. So because of that, if you're gonna play this game with a controller, yes, it will feel really natural and really good, but the sucky part is that you won't be able to run. Unless I'm doing something wrong, but since this game was originally intended to be played with a keyboard, it actually does feel pretty decently okay. But I wouldn't say that the controls are great though, because it still has that same issue that Tatsugeki Mix had, where like the jumping, you had to like walk forward then jump, because if you jump and then go forward, you're just gonna get locked in the same spot, and that is a pain in the ass. But I do find that other than that though, they do feel a little bit better. So now, as for the game's graphics, the graphics in this are really fucking good. I really love the animation on the sprites in this game. I think they all look really great. I love all the backgrounds, has some really nice colors, and of course it fits the tone like really well. Although at first, there are some character designs that are pretty generic, like you get like a lot of like stereotypical enemies that you would see in horror type of games. But then later on you do see some cooler looking ones, but still though, they are at least very well detailed for what they are. And the game's cutscenes do look really cool. There's like a lot of like comic book style paneling that you got here. And just the overall art style of the game is just really fucking great. I really love this kind of shit, and that's one of the reasons why I'm always interested to hear more about the PC-98, because there's just a lot of really interesting artwork. And now, onto the game's music. Oh man, the music in this game is just so fantastic. I really can't think of like any bad song within this game. Like, every single song that I've heard in this game is just fucking awesome. I'd even say that it's almost as good as Bloody Tears. Now, I can gush about the music all day long, but yeah, I can highly recommend listening to it on YouTube. It is on there is a playlist for it. Now, if you want to go out and buy this game, well, when it comes to PC-98 games, they are incredibly hard to find. So much so that I can't even find this game on eBay. Although I do recall seeing one on eBay about a year ago when I was just looking up random shit. And just from what I remember seeing of the price, it was going for about $300, but this is just all going by memory, mind you. But I can't say I'm surprised that it would go for $300, considering that PC-98 games are typically really expensive if you really do want to own them. But if you do at least want to play them with emulation stuff, I can definitely recommend doing so, because I really don't think you're ever going to see a PC-98 game, let alone a PC-98 itself, around your area. But the one that I like using is ANX86. That one I do find is a lot easier, and most games that I've tried on it do run. So now, as for my overall thoughts on Rusty, is that I did have some fun with this game, but there are many parts about it that are kinda rusty. Yeah, no pun intended. So yeah, the controls in this game are probably my biggest issue, just like my biggest issue at Tatsugeki Mix was the controls, but I do feel that this one, they do work a little bit better. It's kind of hard to explain it, but I think the reason why that the controls work better here than they do in Tatsugeki Mix is maybe just because of like the way how the overall game is designed. But either way, I do find that this game is a much better improvement over that one, and yet it came out first. But also this game does have its unique quirks that do make it really interesting, even if it is a clone of Vampire Killer. But out of all the many clones of that series, this one definitely does have like a really awesome art style to it and some kick-ass music, and I do feel that it is a pretty good one for what it is. Obviously it's not the best, but it does have its good stuff. So I can say that this game is at least worth checking out if you're a fan of, wait for it, Castlevania. Yeah, I tried to go through this entire review without saying that name, but, you know, it's kinda hard not to, and this game is basically exactly like it, but the PC version of it. But overall, it's not a bad game, but it does have its rusty around the edges parts, but overall though, I did have some fun with it. Also, for the bullshit record, if you want to play a Castlevania style game with a female lead, at least this one actually came out. But with all jokes aside, that will be the end of this review, and I will be doing one more horror-related game, so with that said, thanks for watching and commenting, and have yourselves a great day.